Is it better to be a master of none and a jack of all trades, or is it better to be niche down and an expert in one thing and mainly one thing only? We're going to talk about that right now on the Fearless Investor Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome into the Fearless Investor Podcast. You're listening to me, Kyle Stanley, and I want to just make sure that before we get into this today that you have already gone over to fearlesskyle.com. You have downloaded our Airbnb Profit Calculator. You're subscribed to our Facebook. Actually, yeah, go to our Facebook page too. It's on there. It's everything, all of our resources on fearlesskyle.com, but especially subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast so you can continue to get all this awesome content that is especially geared towards not just real estate investing, but Airbnb. And so that's what I want to talk about today is niching down. And this is such a unique concept and something that I think is not talked about enough, especially when you're starting a business, and the importance of niching down and being really, really good at one thing. And I actually just talked about this with Michael Butler on our show last week, or actually our last episode, where he really said to me, like, if he could go back and he could do it all over again, he would really niche down to one zip code, one list, and just hammer in that list as a wholesaler as much as possible. And to the point where literally he could know it like the back of his hand, and which he eventually did, but it took him a while to actually realize that that was where he needed to be. And so I thought about that and I kind of thought to myself, well, a lot of my failures in business early on were because I was trying to be everything to everyone. I did a lot of different businesses, including I was in a recruiting business where it started off as just videography. And then before I knew it, I'm like, oh, wait, this client needs this also. I should provide that. And then this client needs this. I should provide that. And I spent so much time trying to figure out how to be everything to every client that it took away from what I was really good at, which was video. And because of that, we got all of these, just kind of like, in reference to like an Airbnb business, we got a lot of 3-star reviews from clients. It was like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. And so I look at that and I go back and I say, well, we were really good at making videos for these athletes to help them get into college. Why didn't we focus all of our attention to that? And there's so many things now I look back on in that business and I'm like, man, if I went back and I did that business all over again, I know it would be a success because I now know the importance of niching down. So I'm going to give you 7, count them, 7 reasons today why I think niching down from experience, okay, this is not just from a mentor or from a secondhand source. This is from my experience of running failed businesses and successful businesses. Of the difference between them has mainly been niching down, and why I think that niching down is going to get you to where you want to go, especially when it comes to investing. Because guys, there's so much that you can do. I talk about all the time in this podcast, the idea of the shiny object syndrome, where you're like, oh, I want to get into real estate and I want to flip houses. And then suddenly you hear about wholesaling. You're like, oh, that sounds cool too. And then you hear about creative finance and you're like, oh, that sounds cool too. And then you hear about Airbnb and you're like, yeah, I can do that too. And before you know it, you've got like all of this spread out time and no true successful path. And so that's the number one thing. So number one, why you should niche down: focus. Now, focus is not just focusing on one thing. It is an acronym also. And I get it from John Lee Dumas, who, if you haven't heard his podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire, that's an awesome one. He talks about focus on one course until success. So focus is an acronym. Focus on one course until success. We try to be everything to everyone, right? So like when it comes down to the real estate business, let's talk about that for a second. How can we be focused on one thing? Well, we can focus on flipping only. We can focus on wholesaling only. We can focus on Airbnb only. And when we do that, now the idea is not, hey, let's be successful at real estate. It's, hey, let's be successful at wholesaling. Let's be successful at Airbnb. Let's focus on success in Airbnb until we are successful, however you define success, until you are successful, and then you can move on to the next thing. So going back to the idea of you're just getting into this. So you're listening to this podcast, and I realize in this podcast, especially, there's a lot of people doing a lot of different things. We talk about people, again, doing buying and selling land, wholesaling land. We're talking about people that are doing not just real estate, but stocks and whole life accounts and 401ks and self-directed IRAs. And you're just like, oh my gosh, there's so many good opportunities. Which one do I start with? Or, hey, I need to get good at this and I need to get good at this. And there's that desire, right, to be good at all of them. Because as an entrepreneur, as someone who is wanting success, we hate knowing that this person's successful at this and we're not seizing the opportunity. If you're a true entrepreneur, if you are really like, you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I know that I'm an entrepreneur, then it bugs you to know that someone is seizing an opportunity and you're not. And so for that reason, we get this shiny object syndrome of like, by the way, try to say that 5 times fast, shiny object syndrome. So we get this shiny object syndrome where we're just like, hey, they're successful at that. Why can't I be? But then we forget that, hey, it's not just about the effort. It's about actually doing it. And so I encourage you to pick one path, keep the blinders on. However, realize that when you keep these blinders on, every once in a while, it's important to understand and to comprehend other sources of income that you can create in real estate so that when a deal does come your way, you can either go to someone that knows more about that, you can JV with someone that has experience in that, and you can identify these deals so that when they do come your way, you're not spread thin by looking for them and saying, okay, I got 2 Airbnbs. Now I'm going to go find 2 flips. And it's like restarting this whole thing when you're not even successful with Airbnb, because 2 deals in Airbnb is not success, guys. 20 is success. 2 is not. So keeping these blinders on, but realizing, okay, I am here to wholesale real estate. That's what you're thinking right now, right? I'm here to wholesale real estate. I'm focused on it. I'm going to pull this list. I'm going to do direct mail. I'm going to do door knocking. I'm going to do driving for dollars. And I'm not going to leave this list until I have X amount of deals. But oh, by the way, along the way, I met a seller who they couldn't do the number I wanted, but they're $9,000 back on their mortgage. And this sounds like it would be a really good deal for my friend Carl over here, who is great at subject to purchases. So maybe I could wholesale this deal to Carl because I understand what subject to is. I'm not looking for subject to yet. I'm looking for a straight up wholesale deal, but I came across a seller and I understand this. And so maybe I can talk to Carl and ask him if this is a deal for him. So this is where, again, focusing on one thing, keeping the blinders on, but being educated about what other deals look like. So when they do come your way, you have other connections in your sphere of your network that are going to allow you to be able to capitalize on those. Okay. So again, focus on one course until success. So number 2 here of why we want to niche down is you're seen as the expert. People see you as the expert when you create a niche. It's funny because as soon as I started talking about Airbnb on my podcast in person with people, people just assumed I was an expert. Guys, I was far from an expert. I was still learning it. When I started talking about Airbnb, I only had 3 Airbnbs and I was making like close to $3,000, $4,000 a month, which was great. But immediately, as soon as I started talking about it, because it was something that other people were semi informed about and semi-interested in, they just automatically assumed I was an expert in it. And in my mind, I was like, no, I'm not even close to an expert. I know people who have 30 units. I know people who have 60 units, and I've got 3. But because I was talking about it and because I was sharing with people that I'm doing this, it appeared that I was niching down to Airbnb. In my mind, I was like, well, I'm doing Airbnb, but really my main thing is flipping. And it's funny because like this whole flipping thing, a lot of people are doing it, but even when I was talking about flipping, people still saw me as a flipping expert. But then when I said I'm doing Airbnb, people are like, oh, I want to know more about that because I don't understand it. And so I got this real great opportunity where it's like, I know something that a lot of people don't know about. And even though they know I'm flipping, because I started talking about Airbnb, they're like, oh, this is the Airbnb guy. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm the Airbnb guy. And so I just fed into that. And so what I did by doing that is number three, it started attracting more business. So more people started coming to me with, hey, Kyle, I've got this cabin up by Yosemite that looks like a good Airbnb. Or, hey, Kyle, I've got this friend who's looking to invest $250,000 and I was talking about Airbnb and they want to talk to you. And, oh, hey, Kyle, I've got this friend who is interested in starting an Airbnb business, but has no idea where to start. And I told them about you. And it was just every person started thinking of me as the Airbnb guy. And then they came to me and suddenly I had these opportunities to where now my business today is mainly built around managing Airbnbs for other people, helping investors find Airbnbs and what would fit their needs, and then also teaching students in my education system, my Airbnb Kickstart Mastermind, how to create an Airbnb business. And so that's a really exciting thing to know that just because I started talking about Airbnb at a time when I don't think I was an expert, now I do know that I'm an expert of this, but when I started talking about it, people just assumed I was the expert, which again, as I talk about on number three, is attracting me more leads, more business, which is awesome. So number four, it's developing a strength. One of my favorite things that was put in such a comprehensive way to me was by John Maxwell. John Maxwell talks about working on your strengths rather than working on your weaknesses. So he talks about this idea of ranking your strengths and your weaknesses on a scale of 1 to 10. And I hope you've heard this before because this is a really cool concept. If you haven't, I'm going to do my best to explain this. But let's say, for example, that, I'm going to take being a videographer. Let's go back to my business that I had where I was talking about how I was helping high school athletes get recruited to play in college. Being a videographer, I was an 8 out of 10 and I was a really good videographer and I made a really good recruiting video for athletes. Again, guys, this is almost like 10 years ago now, but I made these videos and I was really good at that. And if I had worked on that skill and put all my time and attention in that skill, the amount of not only people that I would attract because I was only working on videography for high school athletes, it would have, again, just catapulted the amount of business and leads that were coming my way. If I would have focused all my time and attention on that, not only would it bring me more business, but I would have gone possibly from an 8 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. John Maxwell says in 2 years, you can realistically take a strength or weakness and notch it up by about 2 out of 10 points. So I could take an 8 out of 10 and make it a 10 out of 10 and be the best in the business, be the best videographer in this recruiting business where everyone from now around the nation is sending me video because they know that Kyle Stanley's business was called Real Recruits. Real Recruits is the place to go for this. Instead, what I did was I heard, a lot of athletes don't know what to do with these videos once they're done with it. And guess what I said? I also don't really know what you do with the videos. You email them to coaches. And that was all I knew. And so it was a weakness of mine. It was like a 2 out of 10. I knew one more thing than really the people that we were doing business with. And I knew that you had to email it. And so what I did was over the next 2 to 3 years, I worked on this weakness of not knowing how to get connected with college coaches. And I went from about a 2 out of 10 to what John Maxwell would consider the best is now about a 4 out of 10. So instead of making myself the best at something in my industry, I made myself really good at something in my industry. And then I was lukewarm at the other thing that I was trying to sell. And so what this did, guys, is it took away from the time that I put into becoming the best at something, and it spread my attention out across the board to where I was doing things that actually I really didn't enjoy. In fact, they were very heavy. A friend of mine just brought this up, these heavy versus light things. There's things in your business that are very heavy that feel like, oh, I don't want to do this. And there's things in your business that are light because you're like, oh, this is fun. I enjoy doing this. It doesn't feel like work. Videography and editing videos did not feel like work to me. It felt like, oh, cool. I get to go edit a video. I get to go film a video. I get to go on the baseball field. I get to go on the football field. And Airbnb, I love waking up every morning, checking my calendar, who booked last night. I love this business. What I don't love is talking to guests and dealing with the issues they have. So I outsource that. And instead of working on that weakness, I outsource it. So one thing I would have done differently if I went back to this other business of recruiting is instead of trying to be the guy that was connecting high school athletes to the coaches, I would have actually um, partnered with someone. I would have said, hey, you know how to do this. I don't know how to do this. Why don't we feed each other leads? Why don't we collaborate? Why don't we work together? And so these strengths basically allowed me to, well, it didn't in that business allow me to, but in this business, in Airbnb, it has allowed me, because I have a strength, to make it better and better and better, and to focus on one thing that is making me better and better and better. And as, once again, we're going back to the other ones. It shows me as the expert, it attracts more business. And because of that, I'm getting more opportunities. So I hope that really resonates with you. Again, do you want to be the jack of all trades and the master of none? Or do you want to be the best? Do you want to be the guy? Do you want to be the one that everyone thinks of when they hear the word wholesaling, when they hear the word Airbnb, when they hear the word selling my house, when they hear the word buying a new house? Like, you've got to be that person niching down. So that's number 4. Number 5, clarity. It gives you 100% clarity on what your vision is. So when a deal comes your way and it doesn't look like what you should be touching because you don't understand it, then you're not touching it. You're, again, sending it off to someone else. You're partnering with someone else and letting them do the work because you brought the deal. There's so, and I do that now too. I'm doing a lot more of that with my flipping business. Um, I I've gotten to the point where my Airbnb income is making me on a monthly basis just about what a flip would make me. So does it make more sense than, and let me rewind the clock for a second. Last year, a flip would make me about 20 to 25,000, and my Airbnb income on a monthly basis would be, roughly about $8 to $10,000. So, a flip was a nice 3-month salary of what I was doing in Airbnb. So doing a flip once every quarter made sense. It was about matching what I was doing with Airbnb. Now I get these flip deals coming my way and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make about 20 to 25,000. I'm going to make about the same in Airbnb this month. So do I go out and try to find more flips and do something that I'm not as good at, whereas all these leads are coming my way, and in literally 3 or 4 months, I could possibly double my Airbnb income? Or do I want to water that down and say, no, I'm good with Airbnb, and now I'm going to go try to figure out these flips and take more risk, work on something that maybe is a 5 out of 10 for me and turn it into a 7 out of 10, or work on Airbnb and what is now a 9 out of 10 and make it a 10 out of 10. Like, this is the things I'm talking about, guys. So my clarity is there where I'm like, hey, a flip, cool. Rather than me waste my time trying to go raise money for a flip, which I know I'm not good at because I've spoiled my investors to where they really make a lot more money with Airbnb, I'd rather partner with someone that has all of those resources, is ready to manage this thing on its own. We'll split it 50-50. I'm going to make less, but it allows me to go focus on more things with my Airbnb business. And so I know that when that deal comes across my desk, what I'm doing with it, it gives me, because my mind is clear and I understand what I'm looking for, I have that vision where as soon as that thing comes across my desk, I'm not like trying to put a square peg into a circle hole. I'm trying to fit the things that make sense where they fit. When they don't fit, then I move on to the next thing. So I hope that one makes sense. I guess when I think about that, it makes a lot of sense in my head because I know the way my business works. I just hope that makes sense for you guys. And then number 6, your clients aren't confused. That's the biggest thing. If you have clarity, then you should be absolutely screaming that clarity to other people as well. So one of the things that could be really confusing, let's just say if you're door knocking and you talk to someone about buying their house and you're thinking to yourself, hey, I am a wholesaler. And then suddenly, the person comes in and says, oh, I want top dollar for my house. And then you say, well, I'm also a realtor. You've just confused them, right? So now, instead of that, maybe a better approach is, hey, I can help you sell your house. Would you like to sell your house? And what is your goal? Um, and when you have that mindset of like serving the client and not saying to them what you are, what you do. I guess maybe I'm going on a tangent here, but my whole point on this is that when your clients understand what you do, then that's going to lead to more business as well. And they're not going to sit there and be like, wait a second, and think like, I don't understand. You were just trying to sell me a house. Now you're trying to buy this house, or you were just trying to wholesale this house. Now you're trying to put it on the market, or now you're saying you can subject to that. I don't understand what subject to is. And before you know it, you've given so much information that they just don't understand. So I think the easiest way, once again, I keep on using the recruiting business, but that was another thing where it was like someone would come to me and say like, hey, I want you to do my video. And then suddenly before you know it, now we're talking to them about their health and fitness. And then we're talking about how to get the video out to college coaches. And then we're talking about like, oh, we've got this way to be able to increase your ACT scores as well. And they're just like, whoa, like we just came to you for a video. That's all we wanted. And now you're trying to spew all this stuff on us. It's just confusing. We don't really want all this. And so don't trying to be everything to every single client, not only confuses them, guys, it hurts them. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. It really does hurt them because they're gonna think that you're more concerned about your well-being rather than theirs. And you're not going to be as good at all those things as you are with your one niche that you just at this point for some reason have not decided that it is your thing. You need to niche down just for the sake of your clients. And the last thing, guys, number 7, if we have more business, more leads, more clients, what is that? That's more money. That's way more money, way more income for your business, and way more opportunities to be able to accelerate your business. With more money means you can accelerate your business even more. It means more opportunities for people too. I mean, more job opportunities. Gosh, we're going through the 2020 election right now. By the time this airs, the election is probably even done. But I mean, what greater way to be able to create more job opportunities than if you create more money for your business and can outsource more things or partner with more people to create more income opportunities for them as well. So that's what this is all about. Like the things that drive me now are partnering with people or teaching people or bringing people on to be able to bring on a new employee or bring on someone that is going to be able to make money with doing what we do. And that's more exciting to me than anything. I've gotten to the point where I'm making enough money to be able to be very happy with my lifestyle. But the thing that really excites me is seeing other people get to that point. And that's why I'm excited to be partnering with some people in Arizona as well, which I've told you about on the last couple episodes. So either way, let's just go over that one more time. Number 1, focus on one course until success. Number 2, people see you as the expert. Number 3, because people see you as the expert, you're going to attract more business. Number 4, develop that strength. Rather than working on a 2 out of 10 strength, which is actually a weakness, and developing it to a 4 out of 10, why not take that 7 or 8 out of 10 and develop to a 9 or a 10 out of 10? You're going to be the best in the business. Clarity on your vision. When you have clarity, you know exactly what a deal looks like when it comes across your desk. And then number 6, when you have clarity, your clients aren't confused. They know exactly what they're looking for, or they know exactly what you're providing. And with all of this being said, number 7, more money. More leads equals more clients equals more business equals more money. It's just as simple as that. So niche down, guys. Get down to what you really want to do. When you think you're niche down, best advice I ever got was you just niche down even more. So really think down, like right now, if people were to ask me what I do, I would tell them I help landlords make more money. Like that is what I do. I help landlords make more money. How do you help landlords make more money? A lot of different ways. Let's sit down and talk about it. But especially when we talk about niching down to the types of Airbnbs that I'm really good at, like I'm really good at getting to a point where I can manage other people's, and I'm really good at identifying markets that would be very clear for those necessity markets, the Fresnos, the Tucsons, the Midlands, the places that people have to come to. They don't want to come to necessarily, but they have to come to. Like those are the things that I feel like I'm niched down to be able to figure out. So what are you niched down to? Please, if you're listening on the podcast, review this episode specifically. Go on, give us a 5-star review and tell us what you're niched down on. But if you're watching on YouTube, please comment on this video and tell us how you are niched down and what you are doing in your business so that we understand what niching down looks like for you. So Thank you so much for being on the Fearless Investor podcast today, tuning in and allowing us to help you to conquer the world of investing. We'll see you next time, y'all.